Today is the 27th of October, and let's go ahead and take a look. Now, this is using my newer recording gear, and if you just look at the overall picture before we zoom in, it's getting a lot sharper resolution. So it may not be getting a huge magnification boost, but what it is providing me is a much sharper image to work with. So it allows me to blow it up considerably more. So as I bump this up, you can just see a lot of detail. And I'll just do a quick scan of this picture. We're not going to take the time tonight to look at all the objects that I observed in this. We're just going to focus on 3 of them, maybe 4. But I mean, it's getting really good resolution now. I'm pretty happy with the setup that I'm using. And we won't even look at the things over around this area, but there's a lot of them. If you look, there's a lot of objects there. That one's really interesting to me, that we could spend time on. I like that right there too. And then you can't help but notice this right here, delta shaped ship right there, I believe. See the kind of even the cut back. You know, if you do some research on the internet, there's actually some designs of ships that look very, very similar to that. Lockheed Martin and Boeing both have designs that they're developing hyperspeed ships, and they look pretty similar to that. So that's interesting, but not what we're going to focus on today. We're actually going to focus on one little area of this picture before we get into these 3 objects here, which is what we'll focus on, especially this one right here. I'll just point this out right here because it's a nice X-shaped pattern, but with the new gear that I'm shooting with now, you can see more resolution. So you don't just see the X, but you can actually see in this X, there is a central, looks like a pad with a dome right there in the center of the X. So that's just one of the things that I was going to point out besides the main focus of the picture. Now we're going to go to a kind of a more zoomed picture here, and you can see it's already picking up a lot more resolution when I blow it out especially. So now if you look at that X, it's even more apparent. Do you think that's naturally occurring? I mean, most people would argue, well, yeah, that's very odd to have a shape like that, and you can see that clearly defined dome right there in the center of an X. So don't think it's naturally occurring. But these are the 3 objects that just, how do you not see these 3 things? I mean, what do you say about that? Especially this one. I mentioned it in the earlier video. I think it was around the 6th or 7th of this month. But look at that thing. I mean, it's pretty shocking, isn't it? And when you look at even this blow up, and keep in mind now, I can zoom these way out now. Unlike before, I can get a lot of zoom. So as we zoom that on in, just take a look at this object. I think it's crystal clear that that is not naturally occurring. So, you know, I'm not trying to antagonize the federal government or anything, but I just, at this stage, people are seeing that there's intelligent design structures on the moon. How do you argue? Look at these 3 things in this picture, and how can you, with a straight face, tell the people that there are no intelligent designs on the moon? I mean, just look at this. Here's the base. It's got some kind of a extension going up from the base, and you've got this clearly cut U-shaped dark object. And then look at this one. You've got a pedestal, you know, a pole, a tower, whatever you want to call it, with something mounted on top. Now this one you can't see as sharp as the others, but it clearly, you know, does that occur in nature where you've got a slender tower with this big object braced on top of it? Not really. And then this one's even more interesting. Look at it. Does that have anything that you can't help but notice? What does that look like? Either a number 5 or a letter S. But you can see, if you look really carefully, you can see the central tower going up that. And then you can even see, if you look very carefully right there, there is a horizontal or a vertical circle there with this something in the center of it. I believe that's probably some kind of a tower. And the reason I say that is if you look at the rest of the picture, you see them all over. Look right here. What do you see there? Circular dome, you know, with something in the center of it mounted on a tower. Same thing here, even though it's a little bit triangular, I think it's the same thing. And then all these, same thing. So you've got them basically scattered over. Look over here on this structure right here. That's probably a naturally occurring structure right there. But look at that right there. Perfect circle on some kind of a pedestal or some kind of a tower. So, you know, it really is a stretch. And I don't know what this was. I don't know if it's something in the dark zone of the moon that just is real tall, or if it was something in the skyline of the moon. Or the atmosphere of the moon, I should say. So I'm not sure on that, but it certainly was interesting. So I'm going to go to the third and final picture here. It's zoomed in even more, so we can just focus on these three objects, and I'll just go ahead and blow it up. And with this, I think this is the mic drop moment for, is there intelligent structures on the moon? Look at this, and how can you with a straight face deny that this is intelligent design? When you look at here, it starts becoming more clear to me that this right here actually has some kind of a translucent half dome with something in the center of it. And then you have this behind it. So this isn't, I don't believe these are all mounted together. I think this is one object right here. And this is a second object that's ground mounted, but it's a black giant U, for lack of a better description, just like the object that's up here. I mean, you look at these, and this one really, look at it here, and it's really apparent that that is not, and I repeat, that's just not naturally occurring. It's ridiculous to deny the truth. So I don't understand why the global, I keep saying American, but I remember this is not just America's issue. This is the world's issue here. And I think the world has a right to know. I mean, here's the big view of it, so you can see all this structure. You know, look right there's a tower. Look at this, such a clearly defined square base with something mounted on top of it there. And you can see these things. I'm going to do a pinch zoom here just so you can see it. I know I was going to focus on those three, but I just feel compelled to look at a few more of these objects. You know, there's a really large, you know, four-sided tower right there with something circular mounted on top of it. Here's a really large square with some kind of a rectangular structure with something on top of it right there. And on and on and on it goes. Basically, what we're looking at is that the moon is occupied. And I don't know any other way to explain it other than to say the moon is occupied, because that's what it is. It is no more a cold, sterile rock than the Earth is. It's just that for some reason we're not being told the full truth. And I do have a theory on that. I believe part of the reason we're not being told the truth is because the government feels like people may not be able to handle the truth. And they might be right. You know, people that are watching this channel or people that are interested in UFOs, a lot of them are open-minded. But there's a much larger number of people that are closed-minded. I mean, they're the blue pill people who don't believe there could be UFOs because there just can't be. And I know people like that. You probably do as well. So I guess the question we have to ask is, at what point are they going to be willing to share the truth with the people who can handle it at the risk of upsetting or maybe scaring a bunch of the population? And I don't know the answer to that. But for now, this is Matt at UFOs Above Us. And I always end up by saying, keep watching the skies. The answers we're looking for really are up there.